Now, All Black great and legend of the game Dan Carter has established the DC10 Fund. It's a dedicated fundraising platform in partnership with UNICEF Aotearoa New Zealand that will provide critical funding, support and advocacy of UNICEF's work to empower child rights in the Pacific. Since 2016, Dan has partnered with UNICEF to raise awareness of the situation for children around the world. And during a 2019 UNICEF-supported visit to a Syrian refugee camp in Jordan, he saw firsthand how important it was for children to have an education, a safe environment and hope for the future. Following his retirement from professional rugby, he wanted children just like his own to experience happy childhoods and subsequently set up the DC10 Fund to raise funds for UNICEF's work for children around the world. I'm delighted to say Dan is with us this morning. Dan, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Good morning. I couldn't have explained that better myself. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, no worries. I can only begin to imagine what it's actually like to go and see something like what you saw in Syria firsthand. And, if you have an experience like that, the important thing I think is to carry it with you as much as you possibly can, as opposed to putting it in a compartmentalised little box and saying, well, I've experienced that now and I have to, get back to my normal life where actually life is good. So how do you make sure that you carry that with you and it is something that you're constantly trying to fold into your activities?
Yeah, it really does put your life into perspective. I'm a firm believer of gratitude and actually working on gratitude. So every day I write 3 things that I'm really grateful for. And every now and then you find yourself complaining or moaning or unhappy, or even you see your children, complaining about something, or they want some extra time on their iPads or some really little things. And then you go into a refugee camp like I did in Jordan, where these children, these families, they had to escape from war in Syria. So they've fled their own country, and through the work that UNICEF is doing around the world, they were at a refugee camp. And so I got the opportunity to visit this place, and it blew me away. These children that were doing it tough, you wouldn't know, because they were so grateful for anything that they had. So we threw a rugby ball around and they were laughing, they were smiling. And I walked away from this visit really motivated and inspired. I thought I was going there to help put a smile on their face, but I was the one that walked away from this environment feeling motivated and inspired by these incredible children that were doing it so tough, but yet you wouldn't know, because they were just so grateful for any meal that they got. They were so grateful for any little bit of exercise or fun that they had. It blew me away. And then I returned back home, and obviously I got my own family, and it just put everything into perspective. And I was like, look, my children are really lucky to have the lives that they live. I want to be able to do more, because I realise that not every child, especially in third world countries, underprivileged children, don't have the access to simple things like clean water, to good nutrition, to education. So when I finished playing, I felt like I wanted to do more, but I couldn't because of my rugby schedule. So when I finished playing professionally last year, I was like, right, I want to use this time of transition over the next year or two to really use my platform, my profile, to be able to give back. And that's the main reason that I set up the DC10 Fund and partnered with UNICEF to really try and help and support these children in need.
If people want to get involved, I understand there's an auction underway at the moment. You did a Kickathon, which was a bit crazy, a long time spent kicking. I presume the body was very sore after that. An auction's kind of an easier thing, I suspect, for you to be involved in.
Yes, you're right. So currently I've got a pair of limited edition rugby boots that I designed with Adidas, and they were going to be my retirement boots. I was going to play my last game of professional rugby in these boots, but with the pandemic, that was just over 2 years ago now, I ended up having to return back to New Zealand. I never actually played my last game professionally with these boots. So I designed a pair, Adidas raffled a few pairs off, so you've never actually been able to buy a pair of these boots. But I wanted to bring my two passions together. One passion giving back to children in need that I've just talked about, and the other passion of kicking. I've always been able to kick goals, and it's something I love. Even now I've finished being a professional rugby player, I love taking my bag of rugby balls down to the park and kicking goals. So I wanted to bring my two passions together for a fundraising event. So I went down to Eden Park and I kicked goals for 24 hours straight, no sleep. And I managed to survive the 24 hours. I raised some incredible money to help provide clean water for children in the Pacific Islands. And I managed to kick 1,598 kicks in that 24 hours, which is how many test points I scored for the All Blacks. So it was a real milestone. It was tough. It was just what I needed, having retired, to put my mind and body to the limits again, which is something I used to do when I was playing professionally. Every weekend you'd go to those lengths, but it was a great experience. And we raised some fantastic money, and we're closing the event in terms of a fundraising event next week. And I thought I'd do one last donation. So I put a pair of my rugby boots, these limited edition rugby boots that I wore for the entire 24 hours. I wore one pair of these limited edition boots for 24 hours. So they probably smell a little bit. They're a little bit dirty. They've had plenty of wear and tear throughout that 24 hours, but I'm auctioning them off on eBay, and 100% of that, the donation, whoever the lucky person is to bid the most for these boots, that will go towards helping provide fresh water for these children in the Pacific Islands.
And in a true tribute to your career, did you kick the last one with your right boot?
Yeah, I know. So the World Cup final in 2015, I had a little bet with a couple of teammates of mine, because I'd never actually kicked a goal in a test match with my wrong foot. And my father used to always tell me to kick off both feet. So I grew up kicking off my left and right foot. And then, we had an opportunity in the World Cup final in 2015. So the last kick of my All Black career was off my wrong foot. So I slotted that. But then through this Kickathon event, I realised actually I need to kick off both feet. There's no way I can last 24 hours kicking over 1,500 kicks just off my left foot. So I mixed it up and kicked off both feet.
You're obviously you love kicking. If you're still doing this, it's not something that you've had enough of. It's not something that you're sickened by. It actually still excites you to have the challenge to be able to kick.
Yeah, it's people are asking, why, why are you down at the park kicking so often? But for me, it's my happy place. It's like meditation to me. So in the busy world that I'm living post footy, I just feel like to clear my head, I go put in my headphones and listen to music and kick goals. It's something I love doing, and I think for as long as I'm able to kick and the body holds up and stays in one piece, I'll kick for as long as I possibly can. But to do an event like the Kickathon just gave it that little bit more meaning, where I was actually kicking for something much bigger than myself. To be able to support these children in need in the Pacific Islands, it gave a real sense of meaning, and something that I really missed since playing rugby. So I love kicking. It'll always be a big part of my life.
That bit that you said at the start, where you talked about writing down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. What age were you when you started doing that? When did you realise that this was something that would be a good thing for your own mental health and for just your own sense of who you are in the world?
I was in my 20s and I got a paid tribute. It wasn't something that I came up with. It was a coach, Wayne Smith, who coached the All Blacks for a number of years and even coached me at the Kobe Steelers in Japan, where the team that I finished playing for at the end of my career. He was really big on this, and he used to make the team just really spend a little bit of time of their day where they just were grateful for something, and you actually had to write it down. And there's just something a lot more for me personally meaningful when I actually get a pen and paper and write it down. It means that I'm accountable. It has a lot of meaning. So it was a real value for us in the All Blacks, is actually showing gratitude and showing humility. You know, we used to get free clothes, car, we used to get all these things as a rugby player. And it's quite easy to get ahead of yourself and think that you're better than you are. So you need to actually work and spend time on focusing on things, you know, you're grateful for and thankful for, and make sure that, you know, you remain grounded and keep your feet on the ground, because that's a huge part of success and a huge part of the culture here in New Zealand. So it's been a big part of, you know, my All Black career, is focusing on that. Even now that I've finished playing, I like to spend time focusing on you know, things that I'm thankful for in my life.
That's really interesting, because you come into the team as a very famous, you know, talent that everybody has massive expectations for, and eventually your team delivers on those expectations. But it's not as straightforward. Everything is easy from day one. International rugby is easy. The World Cups are easy. It's the opposite of that. There's heartbreak, and there's despair, and there's recrimination, and you had a first hand, you know, a view of the best and worst of New Zealand rugby culture. Where's in your mind, when you look back on it, where's the hinge point that things turn for the better and you begin to have those values and you begin to live those values?
It's something that's ingrained in you as soon as you are part of the All Black environment. And it's not the coaches or management that are teaching you the values of what it takes to be an All Black or live in the All Black environment. It's the senior players. And we used to have some incredible senior players in the group, the likes of Kevin Mialamu, Brad Thorne, and they used to spend a lot of time with the new guys coming into the environment, and, you know, just getting them up to speed of you know, the All Black way and you know, the values that we live. And we spend a lot of time of looking back at the history of the All Blacks, but then making them realise that they're just custodians of the jersey. It's now their job and their role to add to this legacy. So all of a sudden they walk away really motivated, inspired to realise that their mission, their purpose is to actually leave the jersey in a better place than what it was before they arrived. And when you have, you know, a belief and values like that, you know, everyone's going to give it 100% every single day of the year. So that's a really big value that we rely on the guys when they come into the environment. And then there's a whole lot of things like work ethic is another big one. Walking towards pressure. Obviously, pressure is a big part of, you know, high performance and playing under pressure, and actually walking towards that pressure rather than letting it be a burden is another one that we really spend a lot of time on working on as well. So I think, you know, now that I've finished, I look back at my time in the All Black environment and just, really, really lucky to learn a lot of incredible insights into things that you can carry on even life after rugby.
There's a narrative out there that this happens in the aftermath of the defeat in the World Cup, but it sounds to me like you guys were doing it all the time, and that sometimes you don't always win, and that's the vagaries of sport, that it wasn't as simple as we fixed everything because we lost one World Cup.
No, it was accumulation of a lot of things, but we probably didn't learn enough. Like, I was there in 2003 where we lost the World Cup semi-final, and through that time we didn't probably spend enough time learning from the unsuccessful World Cups that had gone before us. And we went into 2007 thinking that we had enough and what it took to win that World Cup. We didn't. We got knocked out by France in the quarter-final, and we're the worst performing All Black side in the history of World Cup history, going into that World Cup as the number one side for 3 or 4 years straight. So it was a huge insight for us. But something we learned a lot earlier was about culture and building a really diverse culture where everyone could contribute, everyone felt welcomed, everyone could be themselves, and we've been working on that for a number of years. And then we went to 2007, and we thought that was enough, but that was just a little cog in the wheel. What we didn't realize is actually the importance of your mental strength and working on your mental game, because we were spending a number of hours in the gym, we were spending a number of hours on the training field, but we weren't spending enough time working on our mental strength, how to deal with pressure, how to deal with setbacks, how to deal with communication when the opposition are absolutely on fire. So we took some great learnings from 2007, and we were able to apply that, and along with the work that we're doing in terms of building a unique culture in the group, I think that was a huge reason why the All Blacks were so successful for a good 10 years or so after that World Cup.
Is there also something about the style of play in that there's an innate sense of adventure, and we want to keep the ball, and we want to make sure that our skills are better than everybody else, that maybe the rest of the world, we've obviously all read the book Legacy and kind of got as much insight as we possibly can from that side of things. It does strike me too that you all really enjoy the most exciting part of the game, which is being creative, and that's something you can teach it, and you can get better at it, because I definitely believe you can teach anything and get better at anything, but that innate sense of we want to try something that other people haven't tried. We are the guardians of the spirit of the game.
Yeah, all the coaches that we've ever had in New Zealand really encouraged the individuals to express themselves. There's a reason that you're picked at the highest level, is because you have the skill set, you have the drive to continue to not just follow trends, but to be world leading. So we were innovative, trying new things. But one thing that we spent a lot more time on than a lot of people realize is actually the core skills. So as an All Black, we used to go to club rugby training or kids training, and we used to get back out into the community and do a lot of coaching. And you have these little junior clubs going, okay, well, the coach would go, hey, can you take these kids and do some of your All Black drills that you guys do? So we'd take them through some All Black drills, and it was just really simple, basic catch, pass, running straight. And they're like, no, seriously, like, give us some of these special drills that you guys do as the All Blacks. I was like, well, this is it. Like, we focus so much on the core skills. So when we score these silky beautiful tries, if you actually break it down, it is just doing the fundamentals of the game better than the opposition. And we used to really pride ourselves on doing the basics over and over and over again, because if you did that, then you're able to play freely, express yourself, and play this beautiful style of play. Whereas I see a lot of teams, they want to play this flamboyant, open style of play, but they're not doing the basics well enough. The passes are not, right on the chest. The catching, the arms are not extended to catch the ball early. They're catching the ball late on their chest. So just little things like that we would spend hours and hours at training working on.
So that's very much an All Blacks culture and the culture of your career in New Zealand. Like, what about post All Blacks? Was there a different culture that you endured or enjoyed maybe in France, and I guess even in Perpignan, right in the middle of that time with the All Blacks?
Yeah, so when I look back now, and I was lucky enough to have a long playing career here in New Zealand, and then some opportunities to play in France, and then finished my career in Japan. So 3 completely different cultures, and the learnings that I got from those 3 cultures was incredible. One thing that I learned is you can't take what you do in one environment and culture and just replicate that in France, for example. And I knew that in 2009 when I went to Perpignan. It was my first experience. It was only 6 months in France, but I soon learned that the French, they do things differently. And so when I went to race in 92, I didn't want to go there and say, hey, look, at the All Blacks, we do this and that. We should try and change to play more like what they do. I knew that just wasn't going to work in the French culture and the way they did things. So I spent the first 3 months not really saying anything, to be honest. I sat back and I just learnt the way that they went about their work and their delivery and their style of play. And then over time, I was able to just implement little things. And I was really fortunate enough to have a good Irishman, Ronan O'Gara, on the coaching group there. So I used to spend a lot of time in his office, just talking rugby, talking about things we did in New Zealand, not trying to change the way we played, just trying to give little ideas and just a new insight into things that we could try at racing, and try and just evolve our game in a little way. But if you try and throw too much on them, it just, it backfires. And I've seen a lot of Kiwi guys that they go into French environments and they just get so frustrated because things are done differently. You got to accept that things are going to be done differently, and it's just the way it is. But over time, you can slowly just implement little things that can often, make a big change.
And I think some of the coaches probably have the same view as well, where they go into a French environment and sometimes get taken aback a little bit by some of the things that they see. Maybe that time is over, but certainly maybe 10, 15 years ago that was the case. So was Ronan O'Gara very inquisitive? Was he constantly asking you questions in terms of bits that he could take from the All Blacks culture and implement within the racing changing rooms?
Yeah, he was a young coach, and he was willing to learn, and that's what I love so much about Rog, his willingness to learn, take in information, his passion for the game blew me away. So much so that when he got the opportunity to coach down here in New Zealand, he took it, and I'm sure he could earn a lot more money, coaching in France. But he wanted to learn so much that he, took the job opportunity at the Crusaders. Had a couple of very successful seasons there, and learned off, some of the best coaches in the world, and the coaching staff that they had at the Crusaders. And then his time was to move on to bigger and better things. And I think that's a big part of the reason why La Rochelle are having so much success recently, is a lot of the learnings that Rog has taken from his time in New Zealand, and he will bring his own spin on things. And so I really enjoyed my time working alongside Rog.
The story goes you were involved in recommending him for the gig in New Zealand, is that right?
Yeah. I obviously used to play with Scott Robinson, so when he was looking for a backs coach, he asked about Rog, and I could only say good things, having worked alongside Ronan for a couple of years, and his willingness to learn. I still realised at that time he was a young coach, but his passion for the game, his willingness to learn. So he had a huge growth mindset, which I loved. He never thought that he had all the answers. He was willing to listen and learn, and also debate, which is very important as well. So I knew it'd be a perfect fit for both the Crusaders and Ronan, and it was hugely successful. And I'm sure that he's a much better coach because of his time down here in New Zealand.
Was there ever any part of you that was thinking, you have a growth mindset, you're still obsessed with the game, you still love it, you still love being around the environment, that coaching is in your future?
I don't know. Like, I do. I love the game, and I love watching the game. I'm hugely passionate about rugby. I feel like I have a lot of knowledge and experience to share. But I've given so much to the game as a player, and now I feel like I just need to use my energy and time on my family. I've got a young family of 4 children, 4 boys, all under 9 years old, and I love my weekends with my kids.
Yeah.
I'm testing my patience, helping coach, their soccer teams and rugby teams, and playing Uber driver to their kids' sports on the weekends. I just love that, and I felt like my last couple of seasons when I was in Japan, they were based in New Zealand, so I missed a lot of their childhood. So they're so young. My youngest is 11 months, and my eldest just turned 9. So they're at really good ages where they need to have mum and dad around. So if I get into coaching, it's full on. Like I've seen how hard the top coaches work, and to then be away for the weekends as well. It's just for me the timing wasn't quite right to get into coaching. You never say never. Who knows what the future holds? But in this point of time, coaching doesn't really interest me.
So a bit of broadcasting might be the future, is it?
No, broadcasting is just as bad. You're away for the weekend again. I find in other ways. There's plenty of other projects that I'm working on. A lot of ambassador work as well. Taking some time out, from the game as a repurpose and focus on how I can make the biggest impact over the next 10, 20 years. In the second chapter of my life.
Well, that's fair enough. One last question for you then. How many tests will Ireland win in New Zealand this summer?
I love that. This is huge, honestly. As a proud Kiwi, and the way the Irish played against us in November, completely outplayed us, has brought so much excitement around these 3 test matches in New Zealand. As you know, us Kiwis, we're pretty passionate about rugby. It's like a religion down here in New Zealand. So to be completely outplayed like we were in November brings some real excitement to the series. 3 test matches. The All Blacks, we really need to know exactly where we're at, and this series against an in-form Irish side. And I followed them pretty closely through the Six Nations, and I thought they played extremely well. Great to see Johnny Sexton getting consistent game time and playing well and driving the team around the park. So I'm hugely excited. I've given you the real long answer. I can't say. I have to support my Kiwi brothers whenever they play, but these are just the test matches that the All Blacks need. Just over a year from the World Cup to just see exactly where we're at, whether we've got the combinations right, how much change we need to make over the next 18 months. And I'm sure the Irish are pretty keen to build on the momentum that they started or that they've been building over the last few years against the All Blacks.
Ordinarily, Dan, the answer would have been, we'll win all 3 of them back in the day, but at least there's a bit of doubt in your mind that I can sense here that it's not a guaranteed, nailed-on whitewash.
Oh, mate, it never was against Ireland. Yeah, we obviously had a great record against the Irish, but and amongst that time there were many great escapes against the Irish, and one springs to mind down in Christchurch where I wobbled a dead duck drop goal over.
We remember.
Against the Irish. Yeah, you guys probably should have beaten us that night, but we never sort of had these dominant performances. We had a couple of lucky escapes, so it was always a huge test match against the Irish. So I'm never super confident when coming up against the Irish, and you had some great success over us in recent years. But if I had to, not a betting man, but if I was, I can't bet against the All Blacks 3-0.
Right, okay. Well, look, just a reminder, Dan Carter's gold Adidas Predator boots are for sale for a great cause. That auction is live on eBay. We're going to share that link, and it's also posted on Dan's Twitter feed as well. If you want to own a slice of rugby history and to help a great cause. You've been great with your time, Dan. We wish you the very best. 400 grand raised already for the Kickathon. And as you said, that's there's still another week to go for that. So we hope that you hit the 500,000, and I've no doubt you probably will. Thanks a million, Dan. Congratulations on the fundraiser and surviving the 24 hours and the rest of your career as well, which is also pretty good.
Oh, I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for your support. I miss my trips to Ireland, but obviously might be able to hopefully pop over there sometime soon. So thanks again.
Cheers. That's Dan Carter, rugby legend, joining us this morning for a very good cause. It is for UNICEF Aotearoa, New Zealand.